I've had plenty of queries put to me, so I thought I'd write some about the naked truth if you're going to Brassard's Clinic in Montreal for SRS. And here's a little true confession time, folks. I'm a male to female transsexual, and if I'd known in 2003 when all this began what I know now and felt what I feel now, in 2014 when it's ostensibly all over, I'd never have had SRS or gone through transition. Transition has simply cost me too much to be worth it. So here's some information on that process. Taken with a grain of salt and a little abstraction, this information also applies to most other surgeons. Bear in mind that this is something that has actually happened to me and isn't some romanticized fantasy told by a person burning with the desire to be anyone besides themselves. Okay? So, in the interest of saving money, 99% of people will arrive in Montreal the minimum amount of time before their surgery. Okay, Brassard and his people feel you must be present about 24 hours before surgery to take care of your intake paperwork, collection of vital statistics, and to prepare for surgery. And that means remove all hair from your genital area and administer 2 enemas. One right after dinner and one before you go to bed. Okay? You're very unlikely to have any time for anything besides arriving at the airport and getting to Brassard's facilities unless you specifically schedule time before to do so. You'll only feel up for activities before surgery. Afterwards, breathing will make you tired. This is normal, so don't worry. You don't need to have $1,000 in your pocket or anything like that. In fact, the whole time I was in Montreal, I never spent a penny. Also, if you're going to arrive in Montreal a little while before your surgical date, check with the folks there. They may not let you stay at the recuperation hospital that far in advance of your procedure. Okay? After surgery, you will not feel like much of anything. 666, the number of the beast, applies. 6 days in Brassard's recuperation hospital after surgery. 10 days in Montreal altogether, during which time simply eating will tire you out. Okay? You will not have time or vigor to do anything. This isn't a vacation. This isn't sightseeing. You've just had major surgery. Between the medical aspects of recovery from SRS specifically and recovering from any kind of major surgery generally, you will not be able to sightsee, club, or go shopping in Montreal after surgery. 6 weeks is the ideal time to take off from your life, like work. I only took 5 weeks off, and I didn't allow myself enough time to recover. I was restless, yes, and I was doing mixed martial arts workouts for something to do. But bear in mind that if I wasn't doing those workouts, I was asleep on the couch. During these 6 weeks, you will not need medical care and attention as much as you will need simple rest. Period. Sleep is your friend. 6 months later, you will feel like yourself. 6 months, if then. Okay? To ensure that your recovery happens as fast and as smooth as possible, get as healthy as you can before you go for your surgery. Quit smoking, eat better, exercise as often as you can, as hard as you can, and get as much sleep every night as possible. That's the way it goes. The surgeon will give you a general anesthetic, like a sleeping pill, and an epidural. I woke up halfway through my surgery, but that's the exception. You will not get general, full-on anesthetic. Okay? No ether, no laughing gas, nothing. When you wake up, you will be catheterized, and that catheter will not come out for about 5 days. I don't remember exactly how long. Pay very close attention to what the staff tells you about urination with the catheter, because you can't just hold it until things are more convenient. When you have a catheter and you have to go, you go. Drink a lot of water or juice, especially cranberry juice, and eat a lot of soup because you need the fluids and the nourishment. The medical staff at the hostel is also very concerned about whether or not you have had a natural bowel movement. And if you haven't had one before you go home from Montreal, they'll make you have one. Okay? Don't romanticize the surgery. It might mean heaps and heaps to a transsexual, but to the surgeons and the medical staff, it's simply cosmetic surgery. Male to female transsexuals will have to sit down to urinate for the rest of your lives. This is an enormous pain in the behind. Even natal women insist that standing up to go to the bathroom is more convenient. Don't have some cutesy poo nickname for your post-op genitals either. It's a neo-vagina. Admit it. I call mine my vag, and the reader might call theirs their vag too. In fact, don't romanticize or fetishize any aspect of the process. To do so is to indulge in autogynephilia. SRS is to the staff and the surgeons a cosmetic surgical procedure. SRS does not magically make you into a woman, and you can't instantly go whoring around. Any surgeon who performs SRS is first and foremost a cosmetic surgeon. Okay? Your neo-vagina will look and act like a natal woman's. My vag, some people have studied. They're quite impressed. Broussard does excellent work. In fact, by some measurements, he's the best in the world. Okay? SRS is a very well understood routine surgery, so there are minimal chances of complications such as, oh, horror of horrors, death on the table. The surgeon has to tell you potential complications, but that doesn't mean that they will happen or even that they're likely. Okay? Male to female transsexuals, I don't care what you say or even what you believe. You will, much less tell other people, you will miss testosterone. And if you say you don't, you're lying. Okay? Without testosterone, it is much, much harder, if not outright impossible, to become emotional, get aroused, lose weight, heal from injuries, or get in shape, among other things. Everything you do will be slower and less intense. You cannot do whatever you want whenever you want. Be that painting pictures, walking downtown, or lifting weights. You must plan. Okay? The saying goes that women are the weaker sex. Without testosterone, they are. No slight against 55% of the human race, and I'm not saying that to be mean. It's kind of my gender, you know. Okay? It's simply a fact. You must take estrogen supplements for the rest of your life, lest you have menopause and run a very real risk of heart attack, stroke, and deep vein thrombosis, which is blood clots deep in the muscles. Okay? For that reason, you can't supplement your testosterone via steroids or other performance-enhancing drugs either. If you stop taking estrogen, most people have about 48 hours before it clears your system. And watch out! Okay? It'll cost you about Canadian $1,000 to go to the recuperation hospital. At least it did in 2012. Okay? I'm unable to imagine why it would cost more. Okay? Follow the medical staff's instructions about what to do when to dilate and with what. Don't go out and get some sex toy to use to take dilation to the next level. Dilators, those hard plastic gems, are the size they are, and you dilate when the doctor says to for a very good reason. And having a vag capacious enough to park a Greyhound bus inside isn't one of them. Dilation is one of the most boring things you will ever do, but it is important to ensure your vag heals to the proper size and shape, a necessary evil, if you will. Exactly when and for how long you have to dilate will become less rigid after a while, but know your body and you'll be able to tell when to make those changes, if at all. Okay? If you will keep having to keep your vag clean, and that means douching about every 3 days with white wine and vinegar and warm water. You can use liquid soap if you have to, but always prefer white vinegar. Okay? And the medical staff at the hostel will insist you using antibacterial soaps to clean up your equipment. Okay? All soaps are antibacterial. Some are just more antibacterial than others. Grain of salt again. Okay? I needed 6 months before I could even comfortably touch mine with anything else besides a dilator or a douche bottle. I gather I was ahead of schedule and had a lot to do with how fit I'd gotten before surgery. For nearly 3 months after my SRS, my clitoris was blood clot black and I had white spots inside, like your throat will have after you get your tonsils out. Again, these things are very normal, okay? Forget about having vaginal sexual intercourse for about a year. Consensus among other male to female transsexuals who had surgery about the same time I did is that sensitivity takes about a year to return. That's 12 months, campers. 52 weeks, 365 days. There are exceptions. My girlfriend did the deed the first night she was back in the hostel after surgery. But generally, don't figure on biological dilation before 12 months are up, okay? Have a plan for what happens after you have SRS. The surgery isn't the end of life, but the beginning of it. And if you're not prepared for what happens then, what kind of life you will have having the equipment, almost used a bad word there, is all well and good, but if you're living in a van down by the river, what good does it do you? And like Madonna says in a song that was very big when I was in high school, what happens when you're not in bed, okay? Do your best to be prepared for what happens when everything is done. Although, if you subscribe to the wisdom of Andrea James, as I do, transition is never really over, just the things which happen outside your skin. I wasn't prepared and I lost my career because of it. I wasn't ready. Don't make the same mistake.